Welcome to the Remind Podcast, the podcast where we get inside the real estate entrepreneur's mind. My name is Harrison Smith, I'm the Director of Growth with the Pate Group, and I'm joined today in studio for the first time by Bryan Brown. How are we doing, Bryan?
Good to be here.
Good to have you here. Thanks for making the trip.
Yeah.
So let's start off with, for those who don't know who you are, let's talk a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your life.
All right. So again, Bryan Brown. Right now, I'm currently in the mortgage business. I've been in the mortgage business for 20 years. It's actually my 20th year. My 11th with Guaranteed Rate. I'm originally from Leominster, Mass. I'm a Bentley graduate from a long time ago. Right now, I live in Hopkinton, which most people may know as the start line of the Boston Marathon. And I get 3 kids under 8 that drive me crazy. I love them to death, but they drive me crazy. They're all into all sorts of different sports and stuff. So like every regular parent, I'm all over the place all the time.
Keeps it fun, right?
It does, yeah.
All right. So in mortgages, we find out people typically didn't start where they're at in real estate. So what brought you into real estate? What brought you into mortgages?
Yeah. So it's actually kind of a funny story. So after I graduated from Bentley, this is, I'll say it was in 2002. All right. I'm dating myself here, but I got into so after I graduated Bentley, I played college football at Bentley. Okay. And after Bentley, I actually played semi-pro football in Germany.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. For about a year, played a season, and interesting experience. It's one of those you get paid to, like, it's per tackle essentially. I played defense, I played linebacker, right?
Yep.
And so you get paid per tackle, per interception, per everything. So you're watching videos with the coaches, and they're like, I'm like, oh, there's a tackle that's whatever it was, $5, and they're like, no, you assisted, it's $250. Right? Like, wait a minute, So you don't make a lot of money at that level. So when I came back, this is in 2003, I came back and I was basically broke. I mean, I was 23 years old. I spent all the money that I made over there. And two of my previous college roommates were in mortgages.
Okay.
And back then, there was a real strong refi boom going on. So it was a good market. And I was broke, and I saw them out, and I think we were at a bar one day. Hey, I need a job. Like, you guys got anything? And I got to keep my mom off my back, and she's sick of her 23-year-old son living at home. And they were like, yeah, come on, just join the mortgage business. I don't even know what a mortgage is. My parents complain about it all the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is back in the day where you didn't need to be licensed. They just kind of had to be alive. So they were like, come on over. So, I interviewed and ended up with Champion Mortgage, which, like most people, when they get started in the mortgage business, was subprime.
Oh, sure.
Back then, subprime lending was huge. Yep. And that's how I get in. It was really good. Fortunately, that company, there was a lot of companies doing things they shouldn't have been doing in the subprime market back then, but Champion Mortgage was all full document. Everything was above board and on the up and up. So I ended up starting with a company in subprime, a subprime company that was doing things the right way. They're expensive loans, so you had to have unbelievable training. But so I started with the right company at the right time. That would all happen.
Awesome. So you got in like 03, 04, that time frame?
I started in the fall of 2003.
Okay. So had a few really good years in the run up, and then you lived through the 2008 crash. So
I did.
What was that like?
So that was interesting. So I was with Champion Mortgage. I sold loans for a little while, which is kind of what I do now. Then got promoted to different management positions. And then what actually happened was Nation Star Mortgage, who is Mr. Cooper now.
Yep.
Yeah, right. It's a silly name.
It is.
But Nation Star, Mr. Cooper, bought out Champion Mortgage. They actually laid off all the employees. So I got laid off in 07 or 08. I forget which one. And it was the best thing that ever happened, because at the time, my previous college roommate who got me into the business and I were talking about opening up our own mortgage branch anyway. And it's like anything in life. You get comfortable until something happens, and we needed that push.
Sure.
In order to make that jump, and do. So getting let go, we were literally the last 2 employees. They said, leave the keys in the mailbox and shut the door. And the last 2 Champion Mortgage employees, kind of funny story. And then we just shopped around for different companies to open up a branch of. And in the mortgage world, a net branch is like a franchise. So we shopped around for a bunch of different companies to essentially open a franchise of, and ended up with a company called Superior Mortgage. And that was in 2008. So the answer to your original question is, I ended up opening a branch of a mortgage company in the worst possible time ever.
Yep.
And everyone that I knew, including my parents, was telling me that I was an idiot. But the reality is they weren't wrong. It was just with the information they had at the time. It was a poor decision.
It didn't look good.
It didn't look good.
It didn't look good at all.
It's just something that you just don't do. But what people forget, first of all, I was at the time 27, 28. I really didn't have anything to lose. I was single and so there's nobody depending on me. And we took a shot. What people forget is that basically rode a refi boom from 08 to a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Until right at the lowest of the pandemic, like 2-3 years ago. So just got really lucky with the timing on that. There was a lot of bad going on where homes were, foreclosing and all that sort of stuff back in 08, 09, 2010. But people who did have equity could refinance. And that's when the refi got started.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
You're lucky.
Yeah. In the face of declining rates, you go and grab a refinance and make your life a little bit easier.
Exactly.
Makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone was trying to save money.
All right. So while all this craziness is going on, did
Yep.
you ever at any point consider getting out of mortgages, maybe going and doing something different, or just were you always going to stay the course with mortgages?
I was always going to, I got into a few things here and there. I flipped homes for a little while. Like I dabbled, but I always knew that I was going to be in it.
Yep.
And then, life takes over, right? Where, you get married and then there's a dependency, right? And so there's that comfort. And at that point when I got married, I was 10 years into it, right? 10 years into it. And you start going, what else am I going to do at this point? Right.
Sure.
And then you have a kid and so you just end up staying in it. But I love the business. I love this part of it. The day to day, it's like anyone's career, the day to day, what you actually do can get a little mundane, right? But it's this part, meeting new people, learning about other people's businesses and, obviously helping homeowners buy homes and all that is phenomenal, but it's this part of the business that I really love. So I never really thought about getting out of the business.
All right. So then you mentioned, they get to know people, which is a lot of networking, and you're a big networker.
Yeah.
What about networking, works for you? What draws you to being a networker versus somebody who maybe does a lot of cold calling and things like that?
Yeah. So it's my comfort zone, right? I'm that guy who, I can travel by myself. I go to airports by myself and I'll meet 5 people. Like I'm sort of that guy.
Okay.
I'm I guess an extrovert in that sense, but so I'm not shy. I can talk to anybody. I love connecting people. So when I run events or when I go to events, I really try to say, all right, Harrison, who are you here to meet tonight? And I'm looking to meet an attorney or an insurance person, a financial advisor, another realtor. It's like, oh, great. Let me put you two in touch, right? I love doing that. I love helping other people make connections. And this stuff comes back to you. It's not why I do it, but I find when I network, making connections is the easiest way to go about it. It's just, of all the ways that I've tried to get business, it just seems to be, it fits my personality.
Yeah. That super connector role.
Yeah. And people love you for it.
Yes.
They do. I want to be known as the guy, and I do it organically and just sort of naturally. But people are like, "Oh, I need a plumber, I need a whatever." Oh, Brian's got to know somebody. Like there's a lot of power in that.
There is,
and people keep coming back.
There is. When that law of reciprocity kicks in, and you connect them to somebody, now they really feel obligated to connect you to somebody, and it just continues to go.
Yeah, that's it. And if you can do it organically and naturally, it's even better.
Yeah, I mean, I was at your networking event last night down in Hopkinton, and 60 people show up and everybody knows you, and it all kind of revolves around, they come in, they talk to you, and then they kind of scatter and go talk to each other. And being that person that draws them in and makes all those connections. I met a bunch of people. It was a great event.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
And not everybody's comfortable in that networking.
Right. It's powerful. Well, so, and that's a great point, because there are the introverts of the world. And just so we're clear for anyone listening, the definition of an introvert is somebody who goes to an event like that and they lose energy from it. It's exhausting to them. They literally, to the point where they have to go home and take a nap, and they may not do networking events for a couple of days. I'm the total opposite. Yeah. When I go after my event last, I couldn't even sleep. Right. There's so much energy that I want to go do more of it. But anyway, you'll have these people at events that know that you're sort of introverted, maybe into shy on one side, introverted on another. They just have a hard time just saying hi to somebody. To me, that's a foreign concept, but I get it. Yeah. And so I love connecting that person who's stuck in a corner and say, hey, here, come here, let me introduce you to this person, just putting them in a conversation, and it changes their whole night. And they really appreciate you for it because it's like, wow, he recognized that I'm uncomfortable, stuck in my corner. I know I should get out there and work the room, but I just can't get myself to do it. I'm going to bring you, I'm going to make some intros.
Yeah, and sometimes kind of that warming up process by you making the introduction, them not making the cold introduction of themselves, just takes all those barriers.
Yeah, most people won't do it. Yeah, they just won't. It's so uncomfortable for them that they just can't get out of their own way. So you almost need that. If you can play that super connector role, to use your word, which I like, you could really change somebody's night and
Absolutely
in their career.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, so at this event last night, I interviewed Ashley Harwood on a previous episode who talked all about introverts. And I've always found I have some introvert tendencies. And I always thought that's why I wasn't a good networker. And what I realized is that I wasn't a good networker because I just hadn't done it enough. Like I hadn't been in those rooms enough. I hadn't had those conversations enough. And the more I've done it, I feel like it comes much more naturally to me than I thought.
Yeah.
But it just came from putting myself out there and doing it and not hiding behind the fact that I thought maybe I wasn't the kind of person to network.
Right. Yeah. And she's a phenomenal networker.
She is.
And you are too. It's just so she knows, I think part of it is recognizing who you are, right? You are introverted. You're not comfortable doing that sort of stuff. And then figuring out, okay, this is my, these are my character traits. How do I use them to my advantage?
Yeah, which is great. I think networking is massively powerful. And the super connector concept comes from the 7 Level of Communication, which is a fantastic book for anybody that wants to be a networker. But to go back to mortgages for a minute. So what drew you to mortgages specifically? What about mortgages do you still enjoy doing? Is, because you could do a lot of things in real estate, but you've gotten into mortgages and stayed in mortgages. What about mortgages in particular fits for you?
Yeah. So mortgages themselves, I on one hand, I'll say, like, when you do it for 20 years and you do it 200-300 times a year, it does get a little mundane, right? Yeah. But with what I love, and it sounds cheesy, but you have that first-time home buyer couple that is just so nervous about the process. You say, listen, don't worry about it. Like, I got you. Yeah. As long as you work within your triangle, right? Your realtor, your attorney, your title company, and your lender. It's our job to get you through this process and just taking them through it, and taking somebody who did not think that they could ever buy a home, especially now, right? It's crazy expensive. The rates are high, and there's still people out there that really, really want to own homes, and they just don't think it's possible, and showing them how to do it. And, I believe that owning a home is the key to intergenerational wealth. And you have to own property at some point. Doesn't matter how expensive it is to buy. 10 years from now, it'll be a great deal. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been the right decision. So I love helping, first-time home buyers buy homes and change their lives, and then just see how much it changes their life financially, and the generations behind them. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, no, it's a massive unlock to wealth, generational wealth. Absolutely. And it's been an interesting couple of years with rates being ridiculously low and prices climbing, and now rates climbing. And to those people that are coming to you right now saying, I really want to own a home, what steps should they be taking to get ready?
I think it's always the same sort of drill, right? It's, you got to make sure your credit is in line first. It's getting more and more important. There are things called loan level pricing adjustments, which mean as your credit goes down and you're borrowing more, the interest rate will change dramatically if you have lower scores. So the first thing, and it's an easy fix, is to work with your credit. The second is assets. Better than I do, but it's so hard to buy a house right now with 5% down, because you're just competing against so many other people who have 20% down. We see a ton of, that where the parents will jump in, even for not even your 25-year-olds, but your 40-year-olds who just are getting priced out in the market, where the parents are saying, hey, listen, we have some assets. We'd love to give you a gift for a bigger down payment to show strength, just so that they can win. So for somebody who's got 5% down, looking at your assets, looking at your 401k, talking to your parents about your gift. I mean, we're about to go through the largest transition of wealth with the baby boomers and all that sort of stuff. Would your baby boomer parents be willing to give you that gift now versus, from their estate later on?
Sure.
To help you win. So building your credit, and trying to get as much assets as you possibly can to put down.
Okay. And then in the shifting market, on the flip side of that, what advice are you giving to the other loan officers you work with and the agents you work with?
As far as just growing your business now?
Yeah. In this market where it's much, much different than it has been.
Yeah. I think you got to do, as an agent, you have to do everything within your power. You're going to use all the tools at your disposal, right? We've been talking about these 2-1 buy down loans. We've been talking about all these different options, and I just don't get. I've been trying to educate. As an agent, I would say you got to educate yourself on everything that is available to your buyers. The 2-1 buy down options, using your loan officer to call the listing agent, advocate for your buyer. So for the agents out there, just doing everything you possibly can, making sure you work with a lender. This is not a pitch for us. Obviously we do it, but making sure that the lender can get a loan approved, not just a pre-approval, but an actual approval. Waiving appraisals, like everything that could possibly set the buyer up to win an offer. And on the buy side, just kind of the buyer side, what we talked about before, was just making sure you have as much assets at your disposal to show strength and have the best credit possible.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good. All right. So when you look at your trajectory, your career, you had 20 years of mortgages. What do you think has been most important to your success? Is there a particular habit, a trait, a mindset, a mentor along the way? Like, what do you attribute to your success?
Yeah. So I think one of the things in any business, maybe you've experienced it on some level, is I found that for a long time, I was 10 years, like my day read me, right? And instead of me running my day, I mean, I'd heard that one time, it hit me like a bolt of lightning. It's like, oh my God, that's right. I would just show up and things would happen. People were calling, right? And agents were, realtors were calling me, clients were calling me. So you kind of get into all right, things are good. Yep. Right. Well, the reality is they can be so much better if you're controlling your day. And in that vein, right now with these stupid things, right? As I'm sitting here, it's buzzing and going off. Like, part of your job, one of the hardest parts of my job anyway, is not getting pulled in 1,000 different directions. Yes. First of all, I get my phone that's dinging at me all day, right? CNN is sending me pushes on balloons and all sorts of stuff that's going on. I got my wife texting me, and then I have, that's just the personal side. Then I have emails from my clients, my team, and just everyone wants your attention all day. Yeah. And the number one thing that people should be doing all day, every day, is income producing activities. And I'd be willing to bet it's the minority of people's day, right? Is doing income producing activity. And you have to stay focused. And once I realized, all right, when I come in, you schedule yourself, you shut things off that will distract you so that you can do what you're there to do, which is, income producing activities as much as you can.
So are you plan your day the night before, or are you a plan your day the morning?
We try to, it depends, right? So there events we try to book out, far in advance. I try to do at least an hour of dialing my database of clients, agents, referral partners, at least an hour a day. Okay. We have set times for, if you can schedule set times for, the team to reach out. My team knows when not to contact me, those types of things. We try to book out as much as we can, but I have a team meeting every single morning, and we talk about my day, their day. So everyone knows what everyone's doing. And then we hang up. It's go time every day. Okay. Whereas usually, but previous to that, 10 years ago, it was more just show up and see what happens.
Yeah. What emails do I have? What phone calls do I need to return? They were just chasing whatever came in.
You're just chasing what popped up, the most recent thing that pops, and everything is urgent. In real estate, everything's urgent.
Yeah. Time is of the essence.
Everything. And you can't live your life that way. You'll never get out.
No. And it's one of the biggest challenges we see, especially with new agents, but also you kind of go from new agent to experienced agent to more of a top producing agent. As you look further up that chain and do more business, there are more things pulling at your time, pulling at your focus. Yeah. And you have to almost get more disciplined the further you go, because you can easily get sucked into that vortex of working on the urgent stuff and not working on the important stuff.
Yeah. It's so true. And even to that, it's another thing that I realized, and we were talking about this off camera, is, there's 1,000 good ideas out there, right? So you got all these things coming at you all day that'll provide you distraction. Yeah. Somebody comes at you with an idea. Whoa, that's a great idea. But that's happened a bunch. Yep. And I truly feel like the difference between what separates, the average, realtor, loan officer, salesperson in general versus, the great ones is implementation, right? Oh, yes. And sticking to it. You come up with, you find an idea like you guys have with your, with your letters, like an idea that works. you got to stick to it. And I've sat in 1,000 trainings, and I've seen 1,000 salespeople, and I'm convinced that the difference between the average ones and the great ones is just the people implement a good idea and stick to it.
Yeah, totally agree. Education without implementation is a waste of time, and that's what it is. And you even said it really well this morning. There's education everywhere. There's limitless education.
Yep.
But if you're going to do nothing with it, then why bother?
Right.
Like why go to that seminar or that class?
Yeah.
You're just going to go back and do what you always did.
It should, training is $1 billion industry, multi-billion-dollar industry for a reason. It's because people constantly want to know what they should be doing, but very few people, when they walk out the door, are actually going to put it into motion, and that's what separates.
Yeah, and I think for you and your team, you guys are implementers. You see the ideas. This idea of the event. We did the event in October. You guys have one happening next month. You love the idea and you launch one. Like it's seeing what works and then actually going and doing it. And you guys are great at actually putting it into motion.
Yeah, I think my team they bust my chops all the time about that. They're constantly like, you've got an idea, and I'm the guy. If I had to critique myself on a fault, I would say I'm a ready, go set guy sometimes, right? Where I'll come up with an idea or I'll hear an idea and I'm like, just do it. Yeah. And before kind of really thinking it out, and it's just because I get passionate about the idea and seeing what could come from it. I just want to see the results, and sometimes I need to slow myself down.
Yeah, and actually, that's a good transition to when you look back, what was the most difficult lesson you've learned along the way?
Ooh, most difficult lesson. I would say working with. I fell into the trap of, and most people fall into this trap of trying to work with everybody.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so like, let's use, I'm a mortgage person, you're an agent, right? So as a lender, you want to work with every realtor out there.
Yep.
Okay. The reality is you're not going to jive with everyone out there. Your personalities, they're not going to jive with you. You're not going to like every realtor out there. They're not going to like you as a lender. If I could go back and do it all again, I would have told myself 20 years ago, fine. Honestly, this sounds ridiculous, but I want to work with people that I'd have a beer with.
Absolutely.
If I can sit and have a beer with you and we can talk about, where you came from, and we can get on that level. And the reason that is so important is because that is going to create, first of all, you always want to see your friends be successful.
Yes.
So if you can take a business partner and not convert them, because that sounds like you're doing it, for that reason. But if a business, if somebody can start as a business partner and then become a true friend, where you're going to each other's family things, and you're on a whole different level. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be that relationship that normally would have just been a kind of a flash in the pan thing is going to be a 20-year business partnership because of the relationship, the friendship that you form. And, I could go back and look at it. I know some people that are in my business that have taken their business to the stratosphere because the relationship they have with some of their biggest partnerships is not a business thing. It's a friendship first. And they want to see each other do well, and they help each other because of that. So that was probably the biggest lesson that I've learned, that if I could go back 20 years, I would tell myself, don't focus on, right off the bat. I've met realtors, and I'm like, I don't like this person. Not that I don't like them. I wouldn't have a drink with them.
Right? Yeah. No, it makes sense.
And I know right off the bat that every time they call, you're like, oh, it's just not good. Just punt, refer them to somebody else.
Yeah, and I think we often find too, some of our best referral partners, clients actually do end up becoming friends because exactly that point. Like you get along so well, personalities mesh, you like working together, and because you like working together, you like spending time together, and then a lot of times you end up as friends. And ultimately that's when you have the most success, because you really are, you're pulling for each other, not in a competitive sense, but really because you care about the person.
Yeah. Right. And they care about you.
Absolutely.
Right. And then they're going to go out of their way. I mean, think what you do for your friends. Like I'll do anything for my friends. Right.
Yep.
And if you have, like in my world, just using the mortgage thing, I have realtors that when they get a buyer who has a pre-approval, will say, no, you got to use Bryan. He's my guy. And that doesn't happen unless that friendship is there. And by the way, the other thing too, that having that, a business based on a friendship or to that level, is that things are going to go wrong. Just are. This is real estate, for what we're talking about here. Yep. But in any sales capacity, things don't always go smooth. No. And when you have that level of relationship, that friendship, you got a little leeway there. You've built up some collateral. People say, I know things didn't go well with you. I'm talking to the client. I know things didn't go with this one, but he's the right guy for the job and all that sort of stuff. But If it's a relationship that's purely business, then you don't have that leeway that you normally would.
Gotcha. So what is the one piece of advice you would give somebody to go and establish those relationships? How do you build those relationships in a way that doesn't seem inauthentic?
Yeah. So like say if you're meeting somebody, I think the number one thing that people do wrong, and I'll answer the question this way first, is when they get introduced to a potential business partner, is you feel like you need to sell them. Like, here's all the things I can do with mortgages. It's like, they don't care, right? Right. A lot of, like, we're all the same. And again, using mortgages, we're all the same. We all have the same Fannie, Freddie, FHA products, right? Like, for the most part. And there's a lot of industries that I like. It's financial services, insurance. It's all kind of the same stuff. It is, right? So when you're sitting with somebody for the very first time that, could potentially be a business partnership and ultimately a friendship, just forget anything. Just get to know them. Like, let them talk. Who are you? Where are you from? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? And you're going to find things that you just connect on a different level than, just showing up saying, hey, here's a list of products that I can provide you. They don't care. They want to talk about them. They're there to talk about themselves. Mm-hmm. And when you let people talk about themselves, you're going to find things out about them that is important to them that you may have in common that could galvanize a relationship right off the bat.
Yeah. And I was talking about this last night with somebody at the event. And I think a lot of us get trapped in this feeling of this is a sales business. I have to always be selling. How do I convince my client to do this? How do I sell them on that? And really, we're not selling anything else. We are in positions where we kind of advise and guide and ultimately the client decides what they want to do. Right. But what we're selling them is our ability to serve them, because ultimately what we provide is a service. So we're not selling anything. We're selling our ability to serve them in a way like you described. Right. Where you're going to actually solve their problem and not try to convince them to do anything they don't want to do.
Right. Yeah. People don't want to be convinced. Right. Yeah. And they know right off the bat. Like, you sit with somebody and you start throwing what you could do for them, your products and all that sort of stuff. They're going to shut up.
Yep.
Right. Just sit down. Don't even people hand out cards and they bring, I sit with financial advisors and they'll bring me like the folder of their business and all this sort of stuff. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to. Yeah. First of all, it's probably over my head. But second, it's just like, who are you? Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your kids. Tell me about where you go, where you vacation. Like, this happens all the time. Somebody's like, you're up in Maine. Somebody's like, oh, I own a house up in Maine. I own a second home up in Maine. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. If somebody brings Maine up, I immediately go there. We end up in this conversation about Maine, how much we both love it. Everyone loves Maine, right? And it just, you go down that rabbit hole, and before I know it, we've been talking for half an hour, and we haven't even got into mortgages or real estate or any of that stuff. You're on a different level right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be convinced or sold. We want to know who you are and how you can help me, or how you can help and how I can help you. Nobody wants to be told what they should be doing or shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely.
All right. So as we wrap up here, Bryan, what's one piece of advice you'd give to somebody, maybe looking to get into real estate or mortgages in particular?
If you're looking to get into it, I would say look at your network first, your organic network, right? The people that already know you, like you, love you, right? And I'll talk just from mortgages here for a second.
Sure.
Because people have asked me this before, I'm considering getting into the mortgage game. Do you recommend it? And I said, well, who's in your network? Do you organically have agents and financial advisors? Those are our biggest referral partners.
Sure.
Do you have these people in your network already? They already do. Are they friends, family, cousins? What are they? And if you have a strong network, I would reach out to them first and say, hey, listen, I'm considering getting into the mortgage business. Would you refer me if I do? Because right now it is very hard to break into the mortgage business. You're going to be up against guys like me who have 20 years of experience, who have a huge network of agents that we work with. And you're fighting that battle from the beginning. But if you have family members, just organic network partnerships set up going into it, you got a much better chance of success.
Yeah.
And I would say the same thing for agents, how big is your network, and start interviewing the people that you're going to lean on before you get into it and say, if I get into real estate, would you be open to referring me? Yep. And see what they say. I'd be like, well, listen, I got to be honest with you. My cousin's a realtor, so I got to be careful there. Then you know what you're getting into, right? That's a great thing about getting into something is you can interview the people in your database first and see where your area of opportunity. And I think the second is I would just say, you got to be prepared to work your ass off. We were talking about this off camera, and everyone thinks that there's just a magic thing that you push and a system that you set up and you're good to go. At the end of the day, I'm working harder now, 20 years into the business, than I ever have before. Right. And I will actually go on record saying that what's going on right now is the best thing that ever happened to me. It sucks right now.
Yes.
Because, people are making less and it's harder to get deals under contract. I'm making less than I've made previously, but ultimately this is going to make me better at what I do. It's going to make me better at connecting. It's made me sit back and think about, doing things like this. I'm throwing a mastermind event that we were talking about off camera. Like, I wouldn't have had to do that in 2020 or 2021 when we were killing it, but that's going to really impact my business in a major way. So, for those people considering getting into it, be prepared to work your ass off. And there isn't an easy pill out there. And I'll even take a page from your guys' book where you guys have figured out a numbers game. These guys have figured out, make your business a numbers game, meaning how many phone calls you have to make to get an appointment, how many appointments you have to go on before you close a sale. Understand the numbers. You guys have done that better than anyone.
Yeah, because ultimately that's what it is. If you don't, I was told very, very early in my corporate career that what gets measured gets managed. And if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You can't determine if you're on track, if you're even going to hit your goals, because you don't control the output, you control the input. So we focus hard on what we're doing, measuring the result back, so we can actually reverse engineer to say we need to do this many inputs to get that output. And it's a numbers game. It's a big math puzzle. And it's a big part of our planning cycle with our team is to say, if you want to do X, that means you need to commit daily to doing Y. And are you ready to do that? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, that's great. Yeah. We can retool that goal for you, but don't set a goal you're never going to hit because you're not prepared to put the activities and actions in place to go do it. Right. That's always a tough one. And
it is,
but it's a big piece of it is figuring out if I do this many things, when do I get the result?
Yeah. And I think you just made a great point. Like, for anyone looking to get into this, talking to somebody like us who's been doing it and having us say, all right, listen, here's what you need to do. Yep. Are you prepared to do this every single day? These activities every single day. If you are, then I do recommend you get into it. If you're not, if you think you can just buy some CRM out there and put people into it and it's going to produce loans or home sales, you're mistaken. You shouldn't. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the powers. That's one of the power of joining a team, like yours or like ours or whoever might be in your market. Is those people have the tools, the resources, the know-how, the knowledge to be able to set you up to succeed. To your point, check with your database, figure out who might use you, but even more so, keep in mind you're competing against people with a 20-year head start. Right. Maybe you want to go work with and around those people to learn the ropes before you try to go do it on your own, because. Why go reinvent the wheel when somebody's made a really good wheel you can just be part of?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's genius. Yeah. You can't be, we all want to be, number one and but I recommend being on number one's team first, seeing how they do it and steal the ideas, but really watch the work ethic. Cause I think that's what somebody will see when they join a team and, with you guys, like they'll see what really goes into it, what it takes. Yeah. And if you could follow the blueprint and you're willing to implement, go back to one of the first things we talked about, difference between you guys and a lot of other real estate companies out there is you'll implement. There's 1,000 good ideas, but if somebody's not willing to implement and actually do the work, it's not going to happen. It'll never work.
Yeah. And I literally had this conversation yesterday with a client who asked is the stuff on HGTV real? No, that's not real life. Yeah. That is not how this business works. You're not going to be wearing a Rolex and driving a Lambo in 2 months. Yeah. You don't just get a license and the phone rings. You don't throw these crazy parties and open houses. You're out there grinding, building relationships, making the contacts, putting in the reps, doing activities to get the end result. And that can be, it's a slow burn. It's a long game, but it can be an incredibly rewarding game if you can just stick with it long enough.
Yeah. And you never see no on those shows. Like nobody ever says no to anything. No. Right? Like in this business, you're going to hear no a lot. What we were saying earlier, like the success rate on a lot of things that we do is like between 1% and 5%.
The magic number is 1%.
You're hearing no 99% of the time, or 99% of the things that you're going to do aren't going to work. But that 1%, if you can figure out what it is and implement it, you're good to go. And you guys have done a great job.
Yeah. And same with you guys. It's really about being able to track and manage and be able to know if are you on track or not? And sometimes the results just don't tell you that.
Yeah.
So All right, as we're wrapping up, Bryan, for those people that may want to get in touch with you, talk about maybe guaranteed rate, learn a little bit more about you, networking. What are the best ways people to reach you?
Yeah, I mean, so my cell, right? I'll put my cell out there. I love talking to people about, this sort of stuff. So my cell is 978-870-7138. You can also email me, bbrown@rate.com, bbrown@rate.com. And also I have a podcast out there as well. You can just search it on any of the major platforms, local impact, search local impact, Bryan Brown. I have a podcast on just local. I love local business. I love supporting local. You guys do too.
Yeah, love it.
I think you can grow a phenomenal business starting local. I think people make a mistake of going out. They want to dominate the whole world.
Yep.
And first ask yourself, you're in real estate on the mortgage site. Are you the number one realtor on your street? Like, does everyone on your street know that you're in real estate? The answer is no.
Yeah, start there.
Yeah. Right. And then just keep expanding.
Yep.
How about your neighborhood? How about your town? Because you can win those markets first and then go dominate the world. Start it local and then let those ripples go out from there. So anyway, it's a cool podcast. Listen, I'd love to interview people on it. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, we really appreciate your time, Bryan.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming up to the studio.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man.
We'll see you again soon.